You set the goal, you did the work, the years of it, and then one ordinary afternoon, you crossed the line. You got the title or the number in the account or the thing with your name on it. And you waited for the feeling, the one that was supposed to make all of it worth it. And it didn't come. Or it came for about a Tuesday and then it was gone. And by the weekend, you were already a little anxious about what was next. Here's the question almost nobody says out loud because it sounds ungrateful. If I got the thing I wanted, why do I feel so empty? In the next 20 minutes, I want to make the case that the emptiness is not a character flaw and it's not a sign you aim too low. It's a signal. It's pointing at something specific, and once you can read it, you stop needing a bigger goal to quiet it. I'm Brett Ingram, and this is Optimize, a show built on one idea. Real optimization isn't about squeezing more out of your day. It's about building a life that's actually yours. Let's get into it. So, the empty summit, the achievement that was supposed to change how you feel and somehow didn't. I want to be careful here because this is one of those experiences people carry quietly. You don't post about it. You don't bring it up at dinner because from the outside, your life looks like a win, and saying, I got what I wanted and I feel hollow, sounds like a humble brag or an insult that everyone is still working toward what you already have. So it stays private, which is exactly why it's worth an honest, out loud conversation. Because the story you've probably been told about this feeling is wrong, and the wrong story keeps you running. So this situation is not really an anticlimactic minute or moment. It's not a tragedy. It's just something that didn't land the way you thought it was going to. You had all this expectation, all this excitement, all this anticipation of what it was going to feel like to get that promotion, the launch, the degree, the goal weight, the house, the revenue number. And then it's almost a strange grief of getting what you wanted because you expected this arrival and you got a Tuesday. So it's difficult because then we feel a complex set of emotions. On the one hand, we feel a little bit ungrateful because we should be happy that we achieved it. So many people work really hard. On the other hand, why doesn't it feel the way that it should? So people don't talk about it because nobody wants to feel like they're being a bragger. So when this happens, it's super important to understand that this is really common and it has nothing to do with anything being wrong with you or anything else. What's the achievement where this happened to you? Hold it in your mind because we're going to put it to work. It does have a name and it shows up even at the very top. In 2005, a 60 Minutes interview aired that people are still talking about 20 years later. Tom Brady, 27 years old, 3 Super Bowl rings already. And he says to the camera, I'm paraphrasing closely, why do I have 3 of these and still think that there's something greater out there? God, it's got to be more than this. 3 championships. And the honest confession is, this can't be all it's cracked up to be. If it can happen at the very top of the mountain that millions of people are climbing, it's not a you problem, it's a human one. There's a term for the specific mistake underneath this. The psychologist Tal Ben-Shahar calls it the arrival fallacy, the false belief that when you finally arrive at a goal, you'll feel a lasting sense of happiness or completion. He named it in part from his own life as an elite squash player. He was sure that winning would make him happy. He'd win, he'd feel great for a night, and then the emphasis would move back in. So the reason the fallacy is so convincing is that it's half true. You do get a hit of something real when you win. It's just short-lived by design. So this comes back to the idea of hedonic adaptation, right? Humans are built to adjust. So whether we get a new salary, we get a new title, we get a new house, they become the new normal shockingly fast. And by the way, it works the other way as well. When we think, oh, I could never deal with more struggle or more this or more that or a busier schedule, when that actually happens to us, we have a very good ability to adjust and make that our new baseline. And so in those situations, that reference point is going to move no matter what. And it can be up or it can be down. But in this case, every time you level up, your baseline quietly levels up with it, so the gap that you're chasing never closes. And this is a feature, it's not a bug. It's designed to be part of the way that we operate because it's the same mechanism that helps us recover from the hard things, like I was saying. It's not the enemy, it's just badly matched to a life that's built entirely around bigger wins. And the exhaustion of a finish line that moves every time you reach it is the underlying issue, because each time that you feel like you're failing to arrive, I mean, arrival was never going to feel the way that you were sold. So you just keep on this cycle that's endless and feel like you always have to keep climbing. So if the win itself can't carry the weight, why did we ever believe that it would? Researchers have studied how durable these peaks really are. The classic work on what became known as the hedonic treadmill found that even dramatic life events, the kind we assume would permanently change our happiness, they tend to fade toward a person's baseline over time. The height of the high is not the same as the length of it. We consistently overestimate how long any achievement will keep us aloft. So here's where the standard advice shows up, and here's why I think it's quietly making things worse. The mainstream success playbook has exactly one answer for the empty summit: set a bigger goal. You feel flat, aim higher. Want more? The emptiness in that framing is just proof that you haven't achieved enough yet. But look at what that actually is. If the problem is a finish line that keeps moving, the solution can't be run faster toward a further finish line. That's not the exit from the treadmill, that's a description of the treadmill. So the bigger goal is sort of the softer hustle trap, because it sounds like ambition. It's lauded as ambition and looked upon favorably from everybody else, but it's actually avoidance, because it keeps you from sitting with the actual signal and diagnosing it and figuring out what's going on. So, what I want to challenge is the assumption that the feeling means that achievement was too small. Just because we set a target and we hit it doesn't mean that the target was too low. Almost always it means something else entirely. Maybe it wasn't as important to us as we thought. So the emptiness is not a gap to fill with more, it's information to read. What if the flat feeling isn't the absence of a big enough goal, but a message about the goal that you just finished? If it's a message, then the useful question is, what is it actually saying? In my experience, it's saying one of three things. I want to give you a way to read the emptiness instead of racing to cover it. Not a 5-step system, a lens. When a goal you've reached leaves you hollow, it's usually pointing at one of three things. Call them the borrowed goal, the proxy goal, and the undesigned after. Borrowed, proxy, undesigned after. Let's take them one at a time. Number one, the borrowed goal. This is your goal that was never actually yours. You inherited it, maybe from a parent or a peer group or an industry, a version of yourself from 15 years ago who wanted to prove something. You optimized brilliantly toward it. The problem is you were building beautifully to someone else's blueprint. When you finish someone else's goal, you don't feel a rival. You feel the strange flatness of having spent real years on a thing you didn't, on reflection, even really want. So maybe this is the career that your family respected. We all know someone whose family won't respect them unless they do certain jobs. Maybe it was the milestone that your peer group treats as the scoreboard. Everyone's racing to get to it, and we know the best person is going to get there first. Any of those kinds of things. The definition of success that maybe you never consciously chose, but you absorbed through your environment or your family. So the tell with this is the relief and the resentment instead of joy. So if you have a quiet, was that it? And it's mixed with, why did I let that run me? Those are hints that maybe it wasn't yours to begin with. It could be a goal that you chased mostly because it was the expected next rung, not because you wanted the view from it. And that's super important to understand, because you can't feel fulfilled arriving somewhere you didn't actually want to go. Two is the proxy goal. This one was yours, but it was standing in for something else. You didn't really want the number or the title. You wanted what you believed it would finally give you: the sense of being safe, of being enough, of being respected or chosen or done proving. The goal was a proxy for a feeling. And here's the hard part. Achievements are very good at delivering achievements, right? They're surprisingly bad at delivering worth. So you get the thing, and the feeling you were actually after doesn't come with it because it was never for sale at that store. This could be perfect examples like earning the number to finally feel secure. And you think you have this number in your head, then you discover that the anxiety just repriced itself. Now it's higher, now it's more difficult. Or getting the recognition to finally feel enough and then needing the next round within a week because you again don't feel like enough. So the tell here is that you got the external thing and the internal need is still standing there unmet, tapping its foot. And so the important thing to know here is, what were you actually hoping that goal would make you feel? Say the real word. 3 is the undesigned after. Sometimes the goal was genuinely yours and it wasn't a proxy for anything, and it still felt empty because every ounce of your attention, structure, and identity was pointed at the peak, and you never built anything on the other side of it. The day after you summit, the scaffolding that organized your life, the striving, the plan, the next milestone, it's just gone. And what rushes into that space isn't peace, it's a void. Not because the achievement was hollow, but because you designed a climb and forgot to design a life to live once you've climbed it. This is the post-launch crash. It's the post-graduation dip. It's the flatness after the big project ships. The structure that gave days meaning vanishes overnight. The tell here is that you don't regret the goal. You just don't know who you are on the far side of it or what the days are for now. So arrival needs architecture too. What you inhabit after the win matters as much as the win. So how do you tell which one you're in? You ask, honestly. That's the whole practice, and it's lighter than it sounds. Here's the practice. It's not a program, and it won't take you over a week. It's 3 questions asked once, honestly, about the achievement you've been holding in your mind since the top of this episode. Question 1, was this goal mine or did I inherit it? If you feel resentment more than pride, sit with borrowed. Question 2, what did I actually want this to make me feel? Name the real word, safe, enough, respected, chosen. If the goal arrived but the feeling didn't, you were chasing a proxy. Question 3, did I build anything to walk into on the other side of this? If the honest answer is no, you're standing in an undesigned after. That's it. You're not fixing anything today. You're just reading the signal accurately because the response to each of these is completely different, and racing to set a bigger goal is the wrong move for all 3. So again, if it's borrowed, then the work is a values conversation with yourself, not a new goal. What would you have chosen if no one was watching? If it's a proxy, the work is meeting the real need more directly, the worth or safety or belonging, instead of routing it through one more accomplishment. And if it's an undesigned after, the work is designing the after on purpose, relationships, rest, and meaning that exist independent of the next milestone. Now, most people find that one of the 3 lights up immediately. Trust the one that stings a little because that's probably the closest to the truth. And the important point here too is to feel relief, because you're not broken and you're not ungrateful if you've been through any of this. You just decoded something that most people spend a whole life not decoding. So which of the 3 was it for you? You probably already know. And this points at something bigger about what achievement is actually for. One more thing worth naming because it reframes the whole chase. When researchers followed people across their entire adult lives, the longest study of its kind, running for more than 80 years, the strongest predictor of a life that felt good to live wasn't achievement at all. It was the quality of people's relationships. Which means the empty summit might be doing you a favor. It's showing you, in the most personal way possible, that the scoreboard was never where the meaning lived. So let me come back to that ordinary afternoon. You crossed the line. You waited for the feeling, and it didn't come. I want you to stop reading that as failure. The emptiness after a real achievement isn't proof that you need more. It's one of the most honest signals you'll ever get that a goal was borrowed or standing in for something it could never deliver, or pointed at a peak with no life built past it. There's an old film where a man builds an empire, he gets everything, and at the very end, the only thing he's reaching for is a word from his childhood, a sled, rosebud. Everything he accumulated and what he actually wanted was something accumulating had quietly cost him. You don't have to end up there. The flat feeling on the far side of a win is not your enemy. It's your own life tapping you on the shoulder, asking a better question than what's next. It's asking, what was this actually for? So don't rush to an answer with a bigger goal. Sit with it long enough to hear what it's really saying, because that pause, that's not you falling behind, that's you finally optimizing the right thing. And carry one question out of here with you. The next big thing you're chasing, is it yours? And is it for something the achievement can actually give you? If this episode sparks something for you, subscribe for more, share it with a friend, and leave a rating and review so it helps us reach more optimizers like you. Until next time, remember, optimize your life, not just your output.